I'm Carla Mobley, and here at Huntington North, I teach English 11 and dual credit speech through Huntington University. And this is actually my 18th year of teaching, but my 6th year here at this school. What got me into teaching was a unique life experience. When I was 6 years old in the first grade, my mom passed away of cancer, and a couple of things inspired me to become a teacher. One, she was a remedial reading teacher. And even though I was very young, it stood out a lot that there was a line of people down the block in a cold, snowy day in November to attend her visitation. And all night there would be kids and parents coming through like, your mom, your wife had such an impact on me. But maybe even more than that, my first grade teacher changed my life. During that year, obviously my mom was dying, and she would take my sister and I home every day and feed us like a hot supper while my dad was at the hospital, and take us on adventures. And like my mom passed in November, and in the spring a tornado hit our home and we weren't able to get out of our driveway. And after school she showed up to help us, chainsaw trees so we could actually leave our property. And we continued to have a relationship all the way up until college. Like, she was just a really positive influence on my life. Well, my family moved here 6 years ago to kind of take on a new church. My husband is a pastor at Faith Community Church of God. It's by Norwood Road. And we had previously done ministry in Illinois for about 7 years in a really small town. And we just really felt led to come over here and try to take on like a new ministry. And so far we've been really happy here. Probably the funniest teaching story that happened here, it's about 4 years ago. I was co-teaching with Mrs. Hanline and Mrs. McAleese, and had kept telling them that my stomach hurt so bad I could hardly stand up straight. So I was just like miserable. I didn't know what's going on. And I walked over to this room actually, but my desk used to be on the other side because Mrs. Hanline and Mrs. McAleese and I co-taught for the first 2 periods. So this is 3rd period, and I could just feel myself like getting ready to pass out. And like as I'm going down, I experienced a medical emergency. I heard a student say like, she's faking, and this other kid's like, she's not faking at all. So I'm like unconscious, and Mrs. McAleese is a genius. She grabbed my phone and held it over my unconscious face so she could unlock it and call my husband, because we realized we just lived 4 blocks away over on Cherry Street. She's like, it's gonna be a lot cheaper for him to get her to the hospital than an ambulance. So if you know the Mobleys, we're a really joking family and we're pretty ruthless with each other. So as I was being pushed out in a wheelchair by my husband, all of the education profession students were coming back from their internships in the morning. So there were about 6 of them, and they're like, oh my gosh, Mrs. Mobley, what happened? Because I was in a wheelchair and I looked pretty bad. I was really pale, hadn't really come to that long. So he just looks at them and he's like, and he does this. So then there's this school-wide rumor that I passed out because I was drunk or something, but that was just his awkward way of embarrassing me, because he's like that. You have to have really thick skin in our home. Well, in 10 to 15 years, I'll have an empty nest, which will make me sad. It makes me feel really old, but I definitely still want to be teaching. I see my job as a calling, not as a job. And I just really enjoy being able to impact students, and I try to kind of meet them where they are. And I am a teacher who really cares. Like I often will think about kids in their different situations, even like in my personal time. It's not really something I can turn off.